Well, good evening and welcome to tonight's School Board Candidates Forum featuring two individuals, Sherry Funk and Bill Huntoon, who are running to serve on the Marion Independent Community School District's Board of Directors. My name is Kent Stock, and I have the honor of serving as tonight's moderator. Just a brief little bit about me. I spent 23 years in education. I was in Belle Plaine, Iowa for 13 years as a teacher, as a I've got a Belle Plaine person back there. Belle Plaine, 13 years teaching, and was an activities director, K-12. And then I moved to the Linn-Mar district in 1998 and was there for 10 years. 5 years as an assistant middle school principal, and the last 5 years as a principal at Oak Ridge. From there, I moved on to bigger and greater things, chasing a speaking career and working at a bank. So very interested in education. I still follow it a lot, and it's great to be here with you tonight. School boards play a very unique role in school district governance and provide a venue for communities to have democratic input into local education decisions. To effectively execute their responsibilities, school board members must clearly understand district governance and have a strong commitment to advancing student outcomes. As school board members are elected, it is up to voters to select the most informed and competent individuals to fill these roles. Tonight, we are providing an opportunity for our candidates to demonstrate their knowledge of both the conditions that allow boards to be effective and the specific challenges facing their district. This year, voters will elect 3 individuals to serve on the board. The names of those of only 2 candidates will appear on the ballot. Tonight, candidates will be asked a variety of predetermined questions. Additionally, we ask members of the audience to submit questions by writing them on note cards available in the room, and they are in the back of the room there. If you do not have a card and would like to submit a question for consideration, please raise your hand and we will get one to you. Unfortunately, with the limited time we have this evening, we cannot guarantee that all questions will be able to be asked. We will do our best, though, to get through as many questions as possible. We will not accept questions attempted to be presented verbally from the audience, from members of the audience or the media in attendance. Please use the provided cards. We will be presenting questions on a rotating basis, meaning that each candidate will have the opportunity to have both the first and last remarks throughout the evening. Responses will be limited to 90 seconds. We ask that candidates pay attention to Jill at the front, to our time cards at the front of the room to help us move through as many questions as possible this evening. So let's get started. And we'll start with Sherry. Let's begin by asking each candidate to introduce themselves and provide us with a little background as to why they believe they are the best candidate to serve the Marion Independent School District. We'll begin with Sherry.
Hello, my name is Sherry Funk, and I moved to Marion 23 years ago and deliberately purchased a home in the Marion Independent District. I worked for Verizon for 24 years in various management and project management capacities until this past December when I resigned so I could pursue my true passions, which are spending more time with my family and volunteering in the schools. My experience at Verizon has helped me build skills in managing projects, problem solving, building consensus, conflict resolution, listening, leadership, and verbal and written communication. My husband Joe and I have one child, Julia, who will be a freshman at Marion High School this fall. I am completing my 4th year on the MISD board, during which time I have been committed, conscientious, and caring. My commitment has been illustrated through my 100% attendance at all board meetings, board workshops, and state school board conventions during the past year, as well as attending a countless number of miscellaneous events, games, and concerts across the district. I have been conscientious about the district's finances, asking questions and making decisions that have assisted in moving our district from a negative solvency ratio or financial position 4 years ago to a positive financial position today aligned with state requirements. I have also been a caring and approachable board member who regularly volunteers within the district, visits each student building, supports members of the MISD community as an advocate for all of the students in our district. Thank you.
I'm Bill Huntoon, married to my wife Phyllis for 52 years. We have 2 grown children, 2 son-in-laws, and 3 grandchildren. I grew up in this community. My great-grandfather came here in a covered wagon in 1879, and I'm still here. So I went through school all the way through here in Marion, graduated Marion High School. After college, I came back to teach here, teach and coach. And my background in education, I was not only a teacher, but an administrator at the elementary, middle school, high school, college level, plus inside the state penitentiary and on an Indian reservation. I am running for the school board because I believe every child has a right to a quality education so that they can compete in a global economy. I've been in education for over half a century, and it's been my career, my life work. Thank you.
Thank you both. Bill, we'll start with question 2. How will you build consensus and community support around the work of the school district? And who do you bring with you to the table?
I think I bring the community with me. I'm out amongst the people. I think you have to talk to people, get their ideas, their input, and then you can build consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. And feel free to ask me to repeat a question, either one of you, if you needed that to be done.
So one of our 3 big focus areas for our district this year is going to be building a community that is collaborative. Transparent communication is going to be one of the key elements in the success of building that consensus and support across our community. This past Monday night at our board meeting, we voted and hired Fusion Forward to work closely and partner with our TLC communication specialists so that we are providing an efficient and consistent message across our district to get information out to all individuals. I have supported several initiatives this year that were aimed at building consensus and community support. We partnered with the city of Marion to refurbish our tennis/pickleball courts. I attended a joint meeting with the boards from the Metro K-12 schools, Grant Wood and Kirkwood Community College, to discuss ways that we can support each other in the community. As a board, we're currently working with the city to secure a lot in the Marion district for our student-built home. And I attended multiple community forums with individuals in the Emerson neighborhood to talk about the repurposing of the Emerson building. What I would bring to the table, or who I would bring to the table, would be a network of parents that I have built with all of the volunteering that I've done in the school, and time, because I have the time to get out into our district, to go into the buildings, to talk with individuals. I would also bring integrity to the table, and I am a good listener with excellent follow-through.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Sherry. Teachers, the heart and soul of our school system. How should teacher performance be measured, and what are some of the challenges inherent in evaluating teachers?
If I could start with the challenges first, I think the biggest challenge that we have inherited with our appraising our teachers is time. I think that everyone has a lot of responsibilities on their plate, and we need to make sure that we are making it a priority to give our teachers their appraisals, because that's what's ultimately going to lead to what we're going to do for our professional development within our district, as well as ultimately to our student success. We have at Marion a fully defined annual teacher appraisal process, and it is a part of our new employee handbook that we just recently approved. And the intent of that is a positive learning and feedback process that will be used to help us build our professional development throughout the year, to know what professional development we need. There's 3 different parts to our process that we use. One is evaluations by the principals or another administrator. Second part would be the opportunity for teachers to provide feedback. Maybe they have gone to conferences and taken some notes that they want to share, or if they have a student that's really excelled and they want to provide something that the student has done as a part of their evaluation. And then there are peer reviews, which are aimed at helping that teacher become a better educator. We have our process built around, I believe it's 8 Iowa standards and 3 standards from within our district, and just a couple examples of those would be how the teacher integrates technology into their classroom, and how they demonstrate their knowledge of the particular subject matter. I keep running out of time, don't I?
Absolutely. How should teacher performance be measured, and what are some of the challenges inherent in evaluating teachers?
We hire the best administrators, and it is their responsibility to evaluate the teachers. They can go in the classroom, they can meet with them outside the classroom. They're trained to evaluate the staff. It is our policy that they evaluate the staff.
Okay, thank you. Next question, beginning with Bill. Funding. Do you believe annual state funding increases in the neighborhood of 1% are the new norm? If so, how will districts need to fundamentally change how they do business?
It may be the new norm, but I'm not going to accept that. I will lobby that schools get their fair share. Other groups lobby extensively and come up with more than their fair share. How can legislators believe that we can run schools with 1.1 new money? Business, industry, many groups are given tax credits, given all kinds of exemptions. They need to be fair, and I don't think they are fair. I've shared that with them in open session and one-to-one.
Okay. Sherry.
So unfortunately, I think 1% or less is going to be the new norm, or at least what we've been getting lately. Although not so long ago, I remember taking a 10% cut, so I am appreciative of anything that we do get. One of the philosophies that we have used is to plan for the worst and hope for the best, and especially when we are not receiving our funding commitments in a timely manner. And so that doesn't mean that we need to roll over and play dead and accept what we have. We need all of the members of our community to contact their local legislators as voting members of the community. And when an election is coming up, which there'll be another election next year for those positions, we need to make sure that we're getting informed and finding out who does support school funding, and making sure that we're supporting those candidates that support us. And I think the second part was, what do we do in those times with, to survive with the inadequate funding? And we need to find ways that we can tighten our budget that aren't going to directly impact student learning. Some of the things that we've been doing are partnering with partnering with the city of Marion, partnering potentially with other schools, and also we need to prioritize our spending. We put together a plan for our facilities, and we prioritized, and we need to follow that plan and make sure that we're staying with our priorities and not letting other things come in. We offered an early retirement at the end of last year, which will save the district about $312,000 over the next 3 years' time.
Sherry, that was a nice segue into our next question, and you will lead off.
Can I follow up just with a couple comments?
We have the 90 seconds, and once you're done, but maybe it will be able to tie into another question, okay, Bill, later. Yep. Partnerships. Do you see opportunities for the district to partner with other public stakeholders to realize operational efficiencies?
We have only just begun to partner with all the opportunities that are there within the Marion Independent District, with the City of Marion, with other school districts. And I mentioned some of our partnerships already, the refurbishing of the tennis courts, The City of Marion was a key partner for us in putting together a request for proposal for the reuse of the Emerson facility, a tremendous help to us in time saver and cost saver in that process. I mentioned a lot about working to find a lot to build a student-built home. If the city is able to give us a lot, that will save us over $50,000, and it will give us an opportunity to build a nice new home in a neighborhood that's very deserving of having a nice home. And then I mentioned that, or I'm not sure I mentioned, but we've been having joint meetings with other Metro K-12 schools, with Kirkwood and with Grantwood AEA, and we're going to have a follow-up meeting with them in October, and that will give us an opportunity to work with them and find out where we have opportunities to partner. Some of the areas that we've listed as potential areas where we could partner are in facility maintenance, transportation services. I just heard on the news last night that a lot of districts are having trouble finding bus drivers again this year. I see the Linmar buses drive right down my street to past all the Marion kids standing at the bus stop to go pick up their kids. So those are types of opportunities maybe we can look at. Utilities, electric communication, information technology, purchasing, et cetera.
And Bill.
Right. As Sherry has pointed out, there's no end to the cooperation we can get if we look out there and extend our hand, and others have challenges, and we can face them together. Kirkwood has done an outstanding job in partnership with us. The city, of course, outstanding. Even our state school board association and other associations at the state level help. Thank you.
Very good. The next question will begin with Bill. As a school board member, from whom will you seek advice or input on weighing key issues?
I seek input from everyone, from public, from the administration, from teachers. Everybody's got good ideas. And so I put all those ideas together and have a good basis to make decisions.
Thank you.
Depending on what the issue is, there may be different groups that we need to go to and work with to find expertise. Some of the areas that we've all worked with in the past would be the administrators, the parents, the students themselves sometimes are the best source, teachers, community members, other board members bring a lot of knowledge. Surveys can be a good tool if we're trying to get information from a lot of people or people that we might not always be in direct contact with. And another good tool for us would be the Iowa Association of School Boards has an amazing website with a lot of information that's available to us as board members for reference information. I pride myself on being prepared for board meetings, and I try to proactively follow up with anyone that I have questions about before going to that board meeting. One sample of that, when we did the 10% across the board cut a couple of years ago, I went and talked with every individual that was on the list as having a potential impact or group to find out what that would mean to them, how they would deal with that. People were very open and honest with me. Some people said, I can afford to lose that. That's okay. It could be worse. And then I put together a notebook, kind of like I have now, and I put tabs on it, and I was, all prepared going into the meeting to discuss with the other board members so that I could find the information and make sure that I was well educated and able to speak to which cuts were going to be acceptable and which ones were going to hurt the deepest.
Talking a little bit about school board functions, the function of a school board member. Mm-hmm. Sherry, describe your view of the roles of the school board and the superintendent. What is the ideal relationship between these two offices?
I feel that the board needs to cultivate a very strong relationship or partnership with the superintendent, and it needs to be based on very clear expectations, and then the board needs to hold that superintendent accountable for meeting those expectations. The board is responsible for hiring the superintendent, and I had the pleasure of being involved in the hiring process a couple of years ago within our district. I feel like that's probably the most important decision that I was able to weigh into, ultimately as our superintendent being our ultimate leader within our district. Sorry, train of thought. We also have had the opportunity to work with our superintendent and have some board workshops. And our board workshops are one of my favorite things because, one, our superintendent always finds an amazing place for us to meet. We get out into the community and we find out about some of the resources that are available to our kids that we might not have been aware of. And then it allows us to align on things like some of the things that we've successfully been able to do at these workshops with our superintendent is put together our vision and our mission and our goals and our priorities. We put together a facilities plan coming out of one of those. We put together and discussed in detail technology plans. So ultimately, cultivating a really strong relationship and partnership with that superintendent, giving them clear expectations on what we want, and then holding them accountable.
Bill?
Right. The board sets policy. The superintendent carries out those policies. That's in a thumbshell. That's what it is.
Next question, beginning with Bill. Look around the room. Only 2 individuals are running for 3 seats available on the board this year. Why do you believe this is happening? And is there a role the board should play in developing future leaders?
I believe they understand the tremendous responsibility that board members have. And I just, we try to encourage people to run. It's a cycle, I think. Some years you get extra people running, some years you don't. It's just people don't have the time. There's probably many reasons, but we try to encourage people to run. Thank you.
It's a good question. I feel like time is definitely a factor. People know that it is a big time commitment, and with 2 parents working in most households, or a single parent working in a household, a lot of times individuals don't feel that they have the time to make the commitment that might be needed. I love the question about what we can do. Is it the role of the board to help to develop some future leaders for our district? I think that's an amazing idea and a really strong leader. I know when I was working at Verizon, the really strong leaders were the ones that were always figuring out who was the next person that was going to take their place, because you weren't able to be promoted and advanced into another position until you had somebody else to take your position. And so I think that means, Bill, we have to serve on the board forever unless we find somebody that will come in and fill our positions. So I think that is an excellent idea. I think time, and then if I can be very honest, I think that there have been some things this year that have been kind of tough for the district, and I think sometimes people might be a little bit afraid to step in and have to be involved in areas where there are conflict. And so from that perspective, that may be keeping some people away as well.
You're leading me to the next question,
Uh-oh.
the second time. Conflict resolution. Sherry, describe for me your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building. How will that benefit your service to the board?
So I mentioned earlier, I bring 23 years of experience from Verizon to the table as a manager and a project manager. And during that time, I led very large-scale projects that involved significant budgets and large number of stakeholders on a daily basis. It was my responsibility in those roles to build consensus for those projects, to figure out the timelines and the approach, and a lot of times the technology that we're going to use to be successful on those projects. Conflicts were just inevitable when you bring together a lot of people, especially a lot of very technical people that have very advanced skills, to who brought forward they all brought their own opinion on what they thought should be done. And it's kind of interesting because when I worked with parent groups, when my daughter was younger and I was working with parent groups in the school district, conflict resolution is very different when you're working with a group of parents than with a group of technical people on a job. People become very passionate when they're talking about their children and making decisions that are going to impact their children. And so I learned how I needed to work differently when I was working with another parent versus how maybe it would be resolved in a workplace. Another another place where I've been involved with consensus building is that I'm a Girl Scout leader. And so I've been with the girls, our co-leader, I've been with the girls since they were in kindergarten. And so leading a group of girls and making decisions and training them to take over and do things has led to many conflicts. And so I've had some experience there. Time.
Thank you.
Conflict resolution is an everyday occurrence with all of us. We have to learn the give and take and understand where the other person is coming from. Maybe we don't understand the conflict the same way. If we can exchange ideas, maybe the conflict can resolve itself quickly.
Thank you. Bill, how does today's education system need to evolve to best equip the students to compete in our global economy?
Certainly, the technology end of it has to continue to grow. Our students need to experience in many areas. Our curriculum needs to be ever updated. I think that's...
Thank you.
Better have a strong answer for this one because we actually have a goal to prepare all of our students to be successful members in a global community and in a global economy. First of all, we need to educate ourselves as board members about the global economy to make sure that we're aware of what's occurring within that economy. Also, we need to put together an educational system that will meet various needs of various students because not every student is going to have the same goal of what they want to do, or not every student is going to have the same goal of how they're going to give back to the economy or what they plan to do in the economy. So we need to have an educational system that is flexible and has a lot of different facets to it. Technology definitely needs to remain a part of our educational system, and obviously one of our biggest challenges there is that our students are always 2 steps ahead of us on their, at least for me, they're 8 steps ahead, but students are always at least 2 steps ahead of us with the technology, and so we need to stay on the forefront of technology. And then I think that it's very important for us to not always just focus on content matter, but to focus on training our students with things like ability to be thinkers, critical thinkers, to be able to resolve issues, to teach our students how to be learners so that when they change jobs throughout their career and maybe they aren't doing what they went to school for, they know how to learn new skills and to be trained into a new job.
As 2 veteran school board members, Sherry, you'll begin. How will you communicate, or how have you communicated your work to your constituents? If you were to write or send a newsletter, around what 3 topics would you focus your updates?
So I'll answer the second part first if I could. So if I were to write a newsletter, the 3 topics I would have is I would have a hot topics section, which would be changing all the time, whatever the current hot topics are that we wanted to make sure that we were getting out into our community. I would have a section on the Marion Way, because I think it's very important to communicate and share with people the good things that our students are doing in regards to character, safety, and the other principles of the Marion Way. And then it would be really nice to have a section recurring that showed successes in some of our athletics, some of our music programs, academically, successes that we were having to help highlight and get the PR out there. And then the first part of the question, you can never communicate enough. It doesn't matter how much you communicate, there's going to be somebody that says, oh, I didn't get that message. And so I think one of the keys is finding a lot of different ways to communicate, taking advantage of one-on-one conversations, using social media, newspapers, email, district websites. But I think touching a lot of different types of communication are very important to try and meet more people. One of the things that I really like is that I like how our district assigns email addresses to the board members, and then those are available on the website. So if anyone wants to contact any of us and talk to us, they have the opportunity to easily reach us through those emails.
Thank you.
Yes, 3 topics. I'd like to go with current events in, current trends in education. It's always changing. Those that locally, state, nationally, internationally. Also, people happening and school events. There's just a multiple of things happening to keep our community up to date. Thank you.
Funding. Bill, what do you feel are the district's greatest capital needs right now?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, I can tell you that the state of Iowa gives out over $1 billion in subsidies, in bailouts, in grants, in tax credits, in exemptions, in tax loopholes, in corporate giveaways, incentives, and deductions, over $1 billion. It's time that the party in power stands up and pulls all that in and finds out exactly where they stand with all that. We have plenty of money. We have plenty of money here in the state of Iowa to take care of our priorities. And in reference to our capital needs, we're in the process of doing our athletic complexes, our auditorium. We're in the middle of a capital campaign right now. Thank you.
Well, we always have a huge list of facility needs, and so definitely one of mine is going to be facility needs. Bill mentioned the Marion Builds campaign that's going to be kicking off on the 31st of this month, where we're going to be focusing on some enhancements to our Les Hippo athletic complex, as well as some updates to our auditorium. I think another, and I won't go into too many details on facilities, but just a couple other things. Playground equipment has been a hot topic for us because our new Longfellow School has new playground equipment, and we just put new playground equipment in at FMI. And so Vernon and Starry are on our list of schools that we would like to also get some new playground equipment for. Air conditioning in all of our buildings is always one of the things that we keep on our list and that we talk about, and we've made some progress there. Obviously, our new school, Longfellow, is going to be air conditioned, and we were able to air condition, thanks to a generous donation, we were able to air condition the music wing in our high school. So we're making a little progress on that. The second area is that one of our goals is to recruit, retain, and develop the highest quality teachers, personnel, staff, and administrators. And I feel that having the capital available for us to be able to be competitive with salaries in the area is a very big need for our district. We want to be able to recruit the best teachers. I think we have the best teachers. We want to be able to retain those teachers. And then the third area I had was technology. We have a technology plan, and so following that plan and having the capital funds to be able to support the plan.
Thank you. Sherry, beginning first on this question, how should our business community, colleges, and universities work together to improve the education environment in our region?
Medco has just kicked off a campaign, and I knew I wasn't going to remember the name of this, and I did write it down because I don't want to. Community Promise Work. Medco recently kicked off their community, did I say that right? Community Promise program. And what this is it aligns our CTE strategies with long-term career opportunities. And so basically what they're looking to do is align tightly with our schools. So it's an example of a businesses in our community aligning tightly with our schools to provide opportunities to students who might be looking for a long-term career, something other than maybe going on to college. I feel that it is very important for businesses and the school districts to partner, and the community. We've talked about being able to have cost savings associated with that. It gives more opportunities for students, other than students that might want to take a traditional path of doing something. There are going to be a lot of jobs in our community that we're not going to be able to fill if we don't start training students and getting them to stay and be retained in our community. And I think that's another thing, is that those partnerships will help encourage residents or students that are brought up in the Marion area to stay as members of the working community in the Marion area.
Right. How can they partner with us? And they have already. For instance, we had one example of it this morning. We had a local business that sponsored breakfast for the staff, for the entire staff, and that was well appreciated. That's just one example. Again, Kirkwood has been a close partner with us in what we do. Businesses continue to ask us to help them, and we help them. It goes both ways. They want a workforce that's ready to get out there and go to work, and that's part of our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a two-part question, and reflects part of it is from an audience question. The first part, in your view, what has the district done well over the past 5 years? To insert part of the audience question, what are the 3 biggest challenges facing the district, and how will you deal with them? A lot of words. Yes, that's Bill. Bill first,
Okay.
sorry.
What have we done well? Our facilities, we've maintained quite well. Our curriculum development, our staff development are at least 3 areas that we've worked very hard on and accomplished. And I think those are always challenges, to keep our staff up to date and keep our facilities up to date. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, things our district has done well. In the past 5 years, we have clearly documented and defined a vision, a mission, goals, and priorities for our district. We have prioritized the facility needs that we have within our district, and we're executing and following that plan. We have put a tremendous amount of support or of funding into technology within our district, and we've built a 3-year technology plan, and have a plan to get to one-on-one technology with our students within the district. We have implemented the teacher leader program, and an amazing mentor program that is actually being used as a model for other mentor programs in other school districts. And in the past 5 years, we've hired a new superintendent, and I would consider that to be a good thing. Challenges that we're faced with, funding is always a challenge. You know, we've talked a little bit about that, and I don't want to be repetitive about that, but only receiving 1% from the state is not adequate for us to fund our schools and do the things that we want to do. We did the early retirement this year, so there'll be a lot of new teachers in our district this year, so there'll be some learning curve for those to get acclimated into our schools. But with our mentor program, you know, hopefully that's going to go well. I think that's it.
Thank you. Another audience question. What is your approach to dealing with existing conflicts as you understand them? Begin with Sherry.
So we talked a little bit about conflict resolution earlier, And so my approach to dealing with existing conflicts, I guess it kind of depends, that's kind of a broad question, so I guess it depends on where the conflict exists. But if it's something related to board members, maybe, for example, or something within our district, education would be the first place where I would start. Talking to individuals and getting myself educated about what exactly the issue is, making sure that I fully understand what the issue is. I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid of. I'm not one of those people that doesn't like to be involved in conflict. I don't want to cause conflict, but I'm happy when there is conflict to try and be involved in helping to resolve that conflict. By nature, that's something that I mentioned that I've done many times. So I would say that my approach is getting myself well educated, trying to understand if there's multiple points of view, what those points of view are, and then trying to understand from the other person's point of view what they feel needs to be done to resolve that conflict.
Thank you. Bill?
I think a face-to-face to try to come to grips and understand what the problem is, and maybe there's not that big a problem. Just, I think talking is the best thing, and sometimes we have to give in a little bit. We have to learn, and maybe the conflict is within myself. Thank you.
The next audience question, beginning with Bill. What would you say to a merger with Linmar?
Well, we've tried it 4 times since about 1957. 3 times Marion voted, Linmar voted against it, Marion voted for it, and the 4th time it switched around. Some of you were here, and Marion voted against it, and Linmar voted for it. And I think it's on the horizon. With financial challenges we have, we need to at least discuss the pros and cons. There shouldn't be any problem with that. It's something that nobody wants to touch, but I think it's going to be necessary. Thank you.
So I'm not opposed to anything. I want to be open-minded about everything, and but I think that what we would need to do is we would really need to put some effort into determining what exactly would be the benefits, what would be the challenges that we would face, and we also would need to make sure that we were still meeting the needs of our students within both of our districts. One of the things that we talk about frequently is that each of the schools kind of brings a niche to the Marion, to the Marion community. And so there are things within the Marion Independent District that might not be available at Linmar. There are things available at Linmar that might not be available within the Marion Independent District. And with open enrollment in Iowa, students have a choice of which district they're going to. So there is a reason that we have students that are selecting each of the districts. And so it would be very important for us to make sure that ultimately we're meeting the needs of the students within our district, and making sure that we weren't doing something that was going to negatively impact student learning. And another area that we would need to make sure that we were considering is what kind of an impact that would have on the actual community of Marion. Marion has some very big plans and is doing a lot of growing right now. And so I think it was, having 2 school districts and what each of those school districts offer is something that can help pull additional families into Marion, which is growing like crazy. And so we just want to make sure that we're looking at all different aspects when we're making those decisions.
Thank you. Sherry, do you believe technology is well integrated into the district's learning environment? And what are the district's strengths and weaknesses when it comes to technology?
Okay. If you had asked me that question a year ago, it would be a completely different answer than I'm about to give you. I feel that we have made tremendous strides in the Marion Independent District related to technology and integrating it into our classrooms. The commitment that the board has made to funding technology, the new technology director that we have within our district doing an amazing job, the teacher education that we have done. One of the big challenges that we had initially with getting the technology into our classroom is we had a lot of teachers that weren't comfortable with that technology. And a tremendous amount of focus has been put on educating our educators so that they're comfortable using that technology within the classroom. Some of our strengths that we have some incredibly, well, I already mentioned our technology director, so I'm going to give him a shout out again. We have some incredibly intelligent and tech-savvy individuals within our administration, within our teachers, obviously within our students. So personnel that we have that know the technology is definitely going to be one of our strengths. One of our weaknesses is I still have to throw out and say a little bit from a funding perspective, it would be really nice if we were going into this school year with one-on-one. But based on funding, we had to put the plan together and we had to segregate when we brought the technology and how we're bringing the technology into the classrooms.
Thank you.
Yes, I think Marion has done an outstanding job of integrating technology into the classroom. Our teachers and administrators, staff has done super. Yes, there's been some trials and tribulations, but we've done great in integrating technology into the learning process. Thank you.
Thank you. We're coming to an end of the evening, and we'll start out with Bill. I'd like to provide each of you an opportunity to provide your closing remarks. Start with Bill.
Well, it's been a privilege to serve on the Marion board, and I'd like to continue to do that. I think with my background as a teacher, as a coach, as an administrator, years on the board, that I can bring some experiences and some decision-making to our challenges we have. And I'd be honored with anybody's vote. Thank you.
I would like to thank Medco, the Marion Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Stock, and everyone in attendance for the opportunity to share my qualifications and ideas this evening. Even though I've been extremely nervous about this, I am very appreciative that we had this opportunity. I also would like to wish, I would say Mr. Huntoon, but coming in he said call him Bill, so I'd like to wish Bill good luck with his campaign. I would be very honored to have the opportunity to continue to be a committed, caring, and conscientious member of the Marion Independent School Board. I will strive to continue to give 100% attendance at all of the board meetings and Iowa State conventions, as well as any workshops that we have, as well as just attending countless events throughout the district during my 4 years if I'm reelected. I will continue to be conscientious about asking questions related to the budget, and I'll be focused on helping us remain in a positive financial position and continue to keep us aligned with state recommendations. I'll also remain caring and approachable. I'll continue to volunteer within the district, visit each of the buildings, support members of the MISD community, and be an advocate for all students in our district. Thank you for the honor of serving on the board for the past 4 years. I would appreciate your vote on September 12th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Bill, both of you, outstanding, and really enjoyed the evening. And like Bill, I haven't been called Mr. Stock in 9 years since I left education, but thank you very much. And I, too, would like to thank Jill Ackerman with the Marion Chamber. You love those words, commerce, community, culture. I want to thank Jill and Nick Glue with Medco, the outstanding things that they're doing. They're providing everybody and affording us all the opportunity to hear from our candidates, and can't thank them enough. So on behalf of the Marion Economic Development Corporation and the Marion Chamber of Commerce, thank you for attending tonight's forum. As you know, the decisions made by our local school boards have great impacts that critically shape policy and the overall quality of our local K-12 systems and broader community development. The job is now yours. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, September 12th. Thank you again to our candidates, and thanks for each of you for attending. Thank you, and have a great evening. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.